I served my country for 20 years, led missions, saved lives, earned every medal on my chest. But when it was time to honor my service, they erased my name. No speech, no seat, no goodbye. 6 months later, I walked back into that same room, wearing 4 stars they never saw coming. And this time, they couldn't ignore me. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. I checked the program 3 times. My name wasn't there. After 20 years of service, 20 years of missing birthdays, dodging bullets, burying friends, and holding the line when it felt like everything would collapse, I thought I'd earned at least a seat. This wasn't just any event. It was the retirement ceremony for our division. One final salute, a recognition of service, the goodbye every soldier dreams of when the room stands to honor what you gave, who you became, and what it cost you. But that night, I was just another face in the crowd, sitting quietly in the back, dressed in full uniform. My medals gleamed under the fluorescent lights, but no one looked my way. My seat had no name tag, no program at my chair, not even a courtesy nod. I watched, silent and stunned, as others, some of whom had only been in for half as long, were called up, applauded, celebrated. One by one they stepped forward, received plaques, hugs, even standing ovations. There were stories told about their service, about their courage. Photos, speeches, laughter, tears. I sat through the whole thing, still hoping maybe, just maybe, they call my name at the end. Maybe it was a surprise. Maybe I was the grand finale. But no, nothing. No mention of Commander Emily Carter. Not a sentence. Not a slide. Not even an accidental glance. And the worst part? The people on that stage knew me. I wasn't a ghost. I had commanded units in 2 war zones, briefed generals, even received commendations from the Joint Chiefs. I had bled for this country. Sacrificed. Led with integrity when it would have been easier to look away. This wasn't an oversight. This was deliberate. When the final salute was given and the room broke into applause, I stood, not to be recognized, but to leave. As I turned toward the door, I caught a glimpse of the program booklet again on someone's chair. I picked it up one more time. No name. No mention. And right then, something inside me shifted. Not with anger, but with clarity. Later that night, outside in the cold near the parking lot, one of my classmates from the academy caught up with me. He looked uncomfortable, like he had something he didn't want to say. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, he muttered, glancing around, but someone up top decided you were too controversial to include. I blinked. Controversial? He nodded slowly. You know the reports. The complaints you filed. The way you challenged command decisions. They said you made them uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. That word stung more than any bullet. I had spoken up against harassment in the chain of command. I'd questioned outdated policies that put our own soldiers at risk. I'd advocated for younger officers, especially women, when they were being overlooked or silenced. I didn't do it to make friends. I did it because it was right. And now that integrity was being used as a reason to erase me. But here's what they didn't know. 2 months before that ceremony, I had been selected, quietly, for a high-risk, high-stakes mission overseas. A special operations command that required a leader with grit, discretion, and moral clarity. The kind of command you don't get unless someone up top really trusts you. I accepted without hesitation. We completed the mission with success. No casualties. Major intelligence gains. We prevented what could have become a global incident. And in the aftermath, I was promoted. Not 1 star. Not 2. 4. General Emily Carter. The kind of title that doesn't come with applause but with responsibility. I didn't announce it. I didn't post a photo. I just kept moving forward. Quietly. Steadily. Strategically. 6 months later, that same base hosted a national military summit. Officers from every state were invited. Generals. Commanders. Cadets. And this time, I wasn't in the audience. I was the keynote speaker. When I walked on stage in full dress uniform, with 4 stars on my shoulders, the room stilled. Those same officers who hadn't called my name the first time? They were there. In the front row. I didn't speak about revenge. I didn't mention that night. I didn't need to. All I said, standing at the podium, was this. 6 months ago, I sat in this room, invisible. Today, I stand before you, not because I was included, but because I refused to let their silence define me. The room erupted. Not just an applause but an acknowledgement. And when it was over, they didn't just shake my hand. They asked me to stay and lead a panel on leadership integrity. That's the thing they never understand. You can erase a name from a program. You can forget a chair. You can omit a salute. But you can't erase work that speaks for itself. You can't deny the power of a woman who kept standing. And you cannot silence a voice that knows its worth. I didn't get the farewell I thought I deserved. I got something better. A legacy they couldn't deny. A title they didn't hand me, I earned it. And a return they couldn't stop watching. Later that night, I got the confirmation I didn't want. The kind that doesn't hit you like a slap, but more like a slow, cold realization. The kind that confirms what your gut already knew but your heart had been hoping wasn't true. I was standing near my car in the near-empty parking lot, still in uniform, the night air biting at the back of my neck. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. It was Marcus Hill, my old classmate from the academy. We'd gone through hell together during officer training. He'd always been steady, reliable. The kind of guy who didn't talk much but meant every word he said. He looked uncomfortable. Like he didn't want to be the one to tell me something I already suspected. Emily, he started, his voice low. I wanted to say something after the ceremony, but I didn't want to make things worse. I turned to him. Worse than pretending I don't exist? He winced. It came from upstairs. The decision. Not the organizers. Someone at command level flagged your name. Said it would be better if you weren't on the program. The exact words were, "Too controversial." Said you made the brass nervous. Controversial. Nervous. I repeated the words in my head like some kind of twisted mantra. Not incompetent. Not disgraced. Not unfit. Just controversial. As if truth-telling were a threat. As if having a spine meant you didn't belong. Let me tell you what they really meant. They meant strong. They meant female. They meant outspoken. They meant the kind of officer who didn't shut up when she saw injustice. They meant the kind of leader who didn't play along when silence was more comfortable. See, I'd spoken up too many times apparently. When a promising young recruit was being harassed by her superior, I didn't bury the complaint like others wanted me to. I escalated it. Fought for her. And she stayed because of that. She's an officer now. When I saw systemic gaps in how women were being evaluated on leadership, how the standards kept shifting, quietly and unfairly, I raised my hand in the meeting no one else dared speak during. When budget decisions were being made that would have stripped frontline units of essential gear, I pushed back, even when it meant stepping on the toes of a 3-star. Time and time again I put people first, principle first. And for a while I thought that's what leadership was supposed to be. But the military doesn't always reward integrity. It rewards order. It rewards silence. It rewards those who color inside the lines, even when the lines are broken. What it doesn't like. Waves. And I was a wave. They wanted women in uniform, sure. But quiet ones. Smiling ones. Ones who played by rules written by men decades ago and never dared question why. I didn't fit in that mold. I never wanted to. And so they erased me. Not with a headline. Not with a scandal. Just quiet omission. A disappearing act. No plaque. No salute. No speech. No mention. And now here I was in the parking lot after everyone had gone home being told, by someone who still had enough respect left to tell me the truth, that my career, my record, my existence made the brass uncomfortable. I didn't say anything right away. I just stared past Marcus at the empty flagpole, the darkened auditorium windows. So that was it. You could serve for 2 decades. Led missions in hostile zones. Carry the weight of 1,000 decisions that no one ever thanked you for. Mentor, protect, and fight for others. And still be blacklisted from your own farewell. For what? For refusing to be complicit? For refusing to stay small? I took a deep breath and looked at Marcus. Tell me something, I asked. Did they say what exactly made them so nervous? He shook his head. No details. Just that you had a history of being unpredictable. I laughed quietly. You mean I didn't roll over? He smiled. Yeah, that. He didn't say it, but I knew he was proud of me. And I knew deep down he wished he had the same guts. But pride doesn't keep you warm at night. It doesn't fill the silence when the institution you gave everything to suddenly turns its back. What it does, though, what pride does give you is clarity. Because in that moment I realized something powerful. I had been fighting the wrong battle. I thought the goal was acceptance, recognition, a seat at the table. I thought that if I just worked hard enough, did everything right, the system would eventually reward me. But the system was never built for people like me. And that's okay, because I didn't need their ceremony. I didn't need their applause. What I needed was to keep building what they couldn't control. They could shut me out of one room, but they couldn't shut me up. They could erase my name from a program, but they couldn't erase my impact. They could try to silence me, but I would speak louder through my work, through my legacy, and through every person I trained to take the fight further. That night, standing under the cold stars, I made myself a promise. If my truth makes them nervous, then maybe it's time they learn to live with discomfort. Because I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Here's the part they didn't see coming. While they were writing me out of the program, while whispers circulated about how difficult I was, something else was unfolding behind the scenes. 2 months before that so-called retirement ceremony, I got a call from someone whose name I won't share. Let's just say it wasn't the kind of call you get unless people at the very top believe in your ability to do the impossible. It wasn't a job offer. It was an invitation. A highly sensitive, classified command assignment overseas. One that required complete discretion, surgical precision, strategic leadership, and someone who didn't flinch when things got messy. A mission with diplomatic consequences. A mission no one would ever talk about publicly. And yet, if it failed, it could ignite chaos across borders. They needed someone who wouldn't blink. Someone with spine. With judgment. With history. And despite all the noise, all the whispers, all the erasure, they chose me. No fanfare. No public announcement. No time to prepare for applause or doubt. Just a plane ticket, a sealed file, and a meeting with operatives who only cared about one thing: getting it done. So I left. Quietly. While others were rehearsing speeches for the retirement stage I'd never stand on, I was gearing up with a small, elite team in a location I can't name. There were no cameras. No uniforms. Just decision after decision, all resting on my shoulders. I led from the front, not out of ego but necessity. When it got dangerous, I didn't delegate the risk. I absorbed it. When morale cracked under the pressure, I reminded my team what we stood for. And when the mission came close, so close to falling apart, I made a call that changed everything. One that no algorithm, no committee, no desk-bound colonel would have dared make. We completed the objective. We got everyone home. Lives were saved. Intel was secured. Diplomacy was preserved. Barely, but it held. And when we returned, there was no parade. No welcome banner. Just a sealed report marked completed. Commendation recommended. I thought that would be the end of it. Until 3 weeks later I received a letter. It was short. Almost clinical in its wording. But the last line stopped me cold. Effective immediately. You are hereby promoted to General O10, United States Army. I stared at the words for a long time. Not 1 star. Not 2. 4. The highest rank possible. The kind of promotion most officers dream about from their first day in uniform. The kind that almost never goes to women. And certainly never to women considered controversial. And yet there it was. It happened so quietly that even people inside the Pentagon were caught off guard. The press release didn't go viral. There was no breaking news. Just a few lines buried in a Department of Defense bulletin that most people skipped over. I didn't post about it. Didn't brag. Didn't even tell most of the people who had doubted me. I didn't need to. But I remembered that night. That chair. That program without my name. That hollow silence echoing through the auditorium while my service was erased with polite indifference. I remembered sitting in the back row while others, men I'd mentored, officers I'd trained, stood on that stage and received the credit that I had been denied. And I remembered how it felt to walk out of that room like I didn't belong. That memory stayed with me. Not like a scar but like fuel. Because the truth is, it would have been easy to disappear. To accept the erasure. To retire quietly and let history fold over me. But I knew better. I knew they hadn't kept me out because I failed. They kept me out because I refused to. They kept me out because I asked questions no one else wanted to answer. Because I saw broken things and tried to fix them. Because I held people accountable loudly when I had to. And now, despite everything they did to push me aside, they couldn't deny what I'd become. 4 stars. No apologies. No permission needed. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to fight for a seat at their table anymore. I was going to build my own. No more waiting for approval. No more hoping to be included. No more shrinking to fit into rooms I was born to command. They could keep their ceremonies, their plaques, their safe, sanitized speeches. I had something better. I had the truth. And the truth was they never built me. They couldn't unbuild me. I wasn't the product of their praise, I was the result of persistence, sacrifice, and refusing to be anything less than whole. So I kept moving forward. Not out of spite, but out of purpose. Because there are women out there right now, cadets, lieutenants, corporals, watching, wondering if the cost of speaking up is worth it. If choosing principle means forfeiting success. To them, I want to say this. Let them call you controversial. Let them say you make them nervous. Let them erase your name from the paper because someday they'll have to read it in the history books. 6 months. That's how long it had been since they erased me from the ceremony. 6 months since I sat at the back of the auditorium, watching others get honored for doing half of what I had done while my name wasn't even whispered. 6 months since I walked away from that stage that was never mine, no speech, no plaque, no mention. 6 months of silence. But now I was back. Same base. Same auditorium. Same polished marble floors and high archways that once felt like the center of everything. Except this time, I wasn't walking in through the side entrance, unnoticed and uninvited. I walked in through the front, my name printed in bold across the event banner. This wasn't a retirement ceremony. This was a national leadership summit, an annual gathering of top brass, rising cadets, decorated officers, and decision-makers from across every division of the military. It was live-streamed to every base in the country. And I wasn't just attending. I was the keynote speaker. They put my name on everything, the welcome booklet, the official schedule, even a massive LED screen behind the stage. It didn't just say General Emily Carter. It said, opening remarks, General Emily Carter, United States Army, 010. Full rank, full title, full visibility. And when I stepped onto that stage in full dress uniform, those 4 silver stars gleaming on each shoulder under the spotlight, the room went completely still. No one whispered. No one shifted in their seat. They just watched. Because they knew. They knew exactly who I was. And they knew exactly what they had done. I stood at the center of the stage, hand steady, voice calm. I didn't scan the audience at first. I didn't need to. I could feel their eyes, those who doubted me, those who erased me, those who once thought I was too much of a risk to be honored. They were all there. Front row. The same officers who had sat in judgment 6 months ago, who had flagged my name as controversial, who had leaned into silence and bureaucracy to shut me out of a moment I had earned. Now they had no choice but to sit and listen. But I didn't come to call them out. I didn't come to settle scores. I came to show every young woman in uniform, every silent observer, every recruit watching through a screen, that no one owns your worth but you. I walked slowly up to the podium. I could hear my own breath in the microphone. I waited. Then I spoke. 6 months ago, I began. I sat in this room forgotten. I let that hang in the air. Some people looked around confused. Others froze. They knew what I was referencing, and they knew I wasn't going to let it pass quietly. I wasn't on the program. I wasn't listed in the booklet. There was no seat with my name on it. No mention of my service. No goodbye. Pause. But today, I don't stand here because someone decided to finally include me. I'm not here because I was allowed. I'm here because I earned this. My voice was even. Not loud. Not angry. But it carried, stronger than any shout could have been. And let me say this to anyone watching who's been overlooked, written off, or told you're too bold, too honest, too different, for the system to accept. No committee, no oversight, no uniform protocol can take away what you build with your own hands. I stopped again. Let the words breathe. The silence in the room wasn't awkward. It was electric. And then applause. Soft at first. Then louder. A ripple turned to a wave. A standing ovation that seemed to swell from every direction. But I didn't smile. I didn't bask. Because this wasn't about me. It was about every person in that room who had once been asked to shrink. Every officer told to wait their turn, while others cut the line. Every recruit who had the courage to speak truth to power, and paid the price. The applause continued, and I finally looked out across the audience. That's when I saw them. The same officers who had cut me from the program. The same ones who sat on the board that decided I was too complicated to be acknowledged. They were in the front row, perfectly pressed uniforms, polished shoes, and suddenly very, very quiet. One of them avoided my eyes completely, staring down at his lap like he was reading notes that didn't exist. Another kept shifting in his seat, hands folded too tightly. A third finally looked up, but only for a second. His gaze dropped the moment I met it. They couldn't look at me. Not because they didn't recognize me, but because now the entire room did. There was no erasing me this time. No backroom whispers. No committee decision. I was the headline. I was the opening voice. I was the face on the banner, the name in bold, the rank they couldn't ignore anymore. And what they didn't realize, what they still probably don't, is that their attempt to silence me is what made this moment possible. Because had they just given me a seat at the table that day, I might have walked away quietly, grateful, finished. But by erasing me, they created a fire. One that burned through every barrier they thought would hold me back. So yes, I returned to that same base. But I didn't come back for them. I came back for every forgotten name, every empty chair, every soldier who deserves to be seen. And I stood on that stage not just as a general, but as proof that you can silence a moment, but you cannot silence a mission. Not when it's driven by truth. Not when it's earned in blood. And not when it stands tall on 4 stars they never thought I'd wear. Here's the truth I want every young woman to hear. Every soldier, every student, every quiet storm of a person who's ever been told they were too much for the system. They can ignore you. They can overlook you in meetings. Pretend you don't exist. Forget your name on purpose. Pass you over for opportunities you've earned twice over. They can raise eyebrows when you speak with conviction. Whisper behind closed doors about how you rub people the wrong way. They can deny you recognition. You'll watch people with less experience, less courage, and less integrity receive the medals, the promotions, the applause. You'll clap for them with a tight smile and a heavy heart. You'll try to convince yourself it doesn't matter, that you're above it, that you're not in this for validation anyway. They can even go so far as to cut your name from the program, from the roster, from the moment you gave everything for. But let me tell you what they cannot do. They cannot undo your work. They can't erase the nights you spent in silence, planning every move to keep your team alive. They can't take back the hours in the desert heat, the freezing mountain air, the flooded FOB, where you led without complaint, without fanfare, without sleep. They can't delete the moments you stood up in rooms that went quiet the moment you walked in and spoke anyway. The stars on my shoulders? They weren't gifts. They were not the result of charm or politics or being in the right room at the right time. They were earned. Every single one. Earned in sweat, in grit, in hard calls no one else wanted to make. Earned in the field. In the war rooms. In the quiet hell of responsibility no one could see. They didn't build me so they couldn't break me. They didn't make me so they couldn't unmake me. And that's what you have to remember. This world is going to test you. Over and over again. You'll face slammed doors, long silences, and opportunities that slip through your fingers just when you thought they were finally yours. People will tell you to wait your turn. They'll say you're too loud, too emotional, too bold, too direct, too difficult. What they really mean is, you don't fit the mold they built to contain you. And here's my answer to that. Good. Break the mold. Because the moment you start shrinking to make them comfortable, you start disappearing. Speak. Even if your voice shakes. Even if your truth makes the room uncomfortable. Even if no one claps when you're done. Say it anyway. Stand. Even when you're standing alone. Even when your knees are shaking under the weight of being the first, or the only, or the one they never saw coming. Stand tall. Show up. Not when they invite you. Not when they're ready. Not when the moment is easy. Show up anyway. Show up with everything you are. With your whole truth, your whole strength, your whole story. Because one day, and it will happen, the same people who erased you will be forced to watch you rise. And that moment? That's not revenge. That's revelation. They'll see it in your posture, your rank, your voice, your presence. They'll feel it in the silence of the room when you speak and the sound of others standing to applaud. And you? You won't need to say a word about what they did. You won't need to remind them of the night they cut your name or the moment they looked past you. Because everything you are is the answer. Your power was never in their permission. It was always in your persistence. You are not here because they let you be. You are here because you refused to leave. Because you earned every inch of your space, every stitch on your uniform, every line on your face that came from years of battle, not just against the enemy, but against the silence. So, if you're listening to this right now and wondering if it's worth it, if speaking up, standing tall, showing up again and again, even when it feels like the world is trying to erase you, is worth the fight, let me be the one to tell you it is. Because one day, someone younger than you will sit in the back of a room, feeling invisible. And when they see you take the stage, not for approval, not for applause, but for purpose, they'll believe it's possible. You will become their evidence. So don't stop. Don't let them tame you. Don't let them reduce you. Don't let them convince you that shrinking is safer. Grow louder. Stand taller. Walk stronger. You don't owe anyone your silence. You owe the world your truth. And no system, no matter how deeply rooted, can stand forever against a voice that refuses to vanish. Because the truth? You were never too much. They were just never enough to contain you. They erased me from the program. So I became the headline they couldn't skip. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you to never shrink for anyone, hit that like button, subscribe for more powerful stories like this, and don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Until next time, stand tall, speak truth, and keep showing up.